F. P. Spirit. Heroes of Ravenford. Ruins on Stone Hill. Book 1. Narrated by Alexander P. Wender. Seth rifled through the bugbear's belongings, looking for anything of use. Unfortunately, there was nothing. Abruptly, he heard a shout in the hallway. "Come here!" the voice cried. It was followed by heavy thudding. It swiftly grew louder, then receded. Seth rushed to the door and opened it a crack. He saw the golem at the end of the hallway, down where the pantry was. He heard a voice yell out, "Knock down the door! Kill them all!" Telvar! It had to be the wizard. Seth scanned the hall, but could not see anyone. Either he was around the corner, or he was invisible. That isn't good. If this wizard could make himself invisible, then he was far more experienced than Glow. In a straight-out duel, Telvar would easily kill him. Their only chance was to take this wizard by surprise. Luckily, surprise was Seth's specialty. Bang! The sound reverberated down the hall. The golem's trying to break into the pantry. Seth had to hurry. He pulled out a gray cloak from his pack and swiftly wrapped it around him. The color was close to the walls of the keep and would help him blend into the background. Bang! There was the sound again. The door will not hold long. Seth crept out into the hall and down toward the pantry. The banging continued, now accompanied by the cracking of wood. Seth strained his ears, hoping to hear the wizard's voice again. If I can just pinpoint Telvar's location. A disembodied voice cried out, "Harder! Harder!" The wizard was definitely nearby. Hopefully, he would remain focused on the golem. But Seth had to be careful. He would only get one chance at this, and he needed to make it count. Bang! Seth reached the corner. The golem stood in front of the pantry door, hammering away at it. It was a mindless creature and would strictly follow its master's commands. Seth halted, straining his ears for any sign of the wizard. Bang! Crack! The golem smashed through the upper part of the pantry door. Seth heard Titan's voice from inside. "Go, Lloyd. I'll hold him off until you get down." Then a disembodied voice screamed right in front of him, "Kill them all!" Got him. Venom dagger already in his hand, Seth inched forward. He needed to be within quick stabbing distance to be sure. "But Titan!" he heard Lloyd protest. There was a momentary pause, and then Titan yelled, "Now go!" Seth tried his best to remain detached, but it was difficult. These were the first friends he had in, well, ever. The stone golem kicked in the bottom of the door. Wood went flying everywhere. He chanced a quick peek inside and saw Titan, shield up in front of her, mace in her other hand. Now that's brave. The golem inserted its bulk into the doorway and blocked his view. Seth wrenched his eyes away and listened again for the wizard. Where is he? He forced himself to ignore the crashing and banging coming from the pantry. There he could hear heaving breathing right in front of him. A loud clang resounded in the pantry. It sounded like stone on metal. A cold chill ran up Seth's spine. The breathing began to move. Seth followed. A second clang came from the pantry, and then all sound stopped. Telvar's voice screamed out right in front of him. "Don't let them escape! Go after them! Down the basement! Kill them all!" Seth had caught a glimpse of Telvar when he burst in on them in the lab. He estimated the mage to be about 5.5 feet tall. With that in mind, he guessed where his heart would be. Bracing himself, he stabbed at an upward angle as hard as he could. he was rewarded with the feeling of his dagger sliding into something. That was followed by a shrill scream. Seth ignored the cry and invoked the dagger's magic with a single word. Venomum! He must have guessed right. There was a loud groan, and whatever he had stabbed slumped down. It fell forward and hit the floor. A body materialized on the ground in front of him. It was indeed Telvar. Seth withdrew his knife and checked the mage's pulse. He was dead. Seth heard more banging sounds from the pantry. He looked up but saw nothing there. The golem had disappeared. Seth entered the room. The noise was coming from the chute. He went to the edge and looked down. There was something in the shaft. The obstruction began to move, thrashing around and banging against the walls. It was the golem. It had tried to climb down and was now stuck. Seth laughed. The mindless creature followed its master's last command faithfully. It tried to follow his friends down into the basement. When Seth finally stopped laughing, he yelled down the chute, "Are you guys down there?" "Seth, is that you?" It was Axel. "No, it's the Seldenar. Of course it's me." There was a slight pause, then Axel yelled back, "Where were you?" "I was searching the rooms. How did the golem find you?" There was another pause. Then Brundon said, "I think it was a wizard. I went looking for you and found his bedroom instead. Watch it, though. I think he's invisible." "He was," Seth yelled back, "before I killed him." "You did what?" This time it was Glow. "I killed him," Seth shouted, feeling rather pleased with himself. His enjoyment was cut short, though, when he heard Brundon cry, "We got trouble. It's another golem." Blast! The other golem was still following its master's last command. It went down to the basement to kill his friends. Seth's mind raced. Golems were controlled by their master. Their control was exerted through an item. Since Telvar was commanding the golems, he must have been carrying those items. Axel's voice traveled up the shaft. "Quick, close the door. Lloyd, Brundon, try to hold it." Seth rushed back out into the hall and bent over Telvar's inert form. Fortunately, he also had some skill with magic. He normally didn't need to use it, but now his friends' lives depended on it. Seth concentrated while moving his hands over the mage's body. When the magic built enough, he said the words, "Nalam the Prehenderia." The 2 rings the wizard had been wearing began to glow, as did the cloak he was wrapped in. The spell had worked. The cloak could wait. Right now he was concerned with the rings. They had to be the control items, one for each golem. He bent down and slid them off the dead mage's fingers, then spun around and ran back into the pantry. Seth heard pounding coming up from the chute, followed by Brundon's frenzied cry, "We can't hold it! It's gonna break through!" Seth yelled down the chute, "Telvar had 2 magical rings. I have them now." Glow cried frantically up the shaft, "Destroy them! Quickly!" Of course! Destroying the rings would destroy the golem. "I'm on it!" Seth spun around, looking for something to smash the rings with. In the corner lay a twisted piece of gleaming metal. It was the remains of Titan's shield. It was all bent up, but Seth could still use it to crush the rings. He held them out, one in each hand. They were both plain ribbons of gold. A crash resounded up from the chute, followed by Brundon's desperate cry, "It's breaking through the door!" There was no more time. He placed the ring in his left hand down on the ground, then grabbed the heavy metal shield. He lifted it high over his head and with a swift heave brought it crashing down on the ring. There was a crunching sound as the metal slammed into the stone floor. Down below everything went still. Seth stood frozen, listening. All at once he heard screams. "Gods, I smashed the wrong ring!" Then he heard Axel's voice, "You did it, Seth! You did it!" A wave of relief washed over him. Those weren't screams of agony. They were cries of joy. "What happened to the golem?" Glow answered this time. It turned to dust. The other golems started thrashing around inside the chute. Seth laughed. That one wasn't going anywhere. He looked at the second ring, still in his right hand, then pocketed it. "I'll be right down," Seth called to his friends. "Okay," Axel yelled back. Seth returned to the hall and removed the magical cloak from Telvar's corpse. This could come in handy. He also searched the mage's pockets and found a small book. He flipped through a couple of pages. It was a book of spells. Glow should be able to make good use of this. Seth's mouth curved to one side. Things had turned out just fine after all. He was still smiling as he walked down the hall and descended the stairs to find the others.